of Unitrans, to friends and colleagues of FleetWatch, and to everyone out on our roads that share the roads with us that wanted to join and learn more about how can we be safe on the roads. My name is Melanie Naidu-Pariachi, and I have the awesome responsibility of looking after people development and culture at Unitrans Supply Chain Solutions. Just a little bit more about me. My trucking history is quite a long one. I had the privilege of being born into a trucking family with a family business, and that really just started my love for trucking and logistics, just knowing how the bare food on our tables were affected from how that business worked. And really my further development happened in training after losing my dad in a road accident, and that just really spurred this deep desire and passion to learn more about how do we change the culture out on the roads, how do we change how we look at road safety so that we can make it a safer environment for all. So that's really just some of my background. As part of the Unitrans team, we are really committed to safety. It's our #1 priority. We really want to get our employees and also keep the fellow road users safe so that we can all make it back home to our loved ones. Now, in this industry, we also learned that risk mitigation is a large part of how we keep safe out on the roads. And that's really coming from knowledge, awareness, pre-trip planning, and also just driving techniques, really good driving techniques that you can employ. So today we've partnered with FleetWatch, who have been in the industry for a number of years. They started first as a risk mitigation management articles and publishing, but now is well known to be an online trucking magazine. So today we've got quite a host of speakers that are lined up with a number of years of experience to share more with you on how you can keep safe on the roads, especially now during the peak seasons. So in terms of some navigation for today, we have Kylie Saunders. You'd see that a lot of the emails, and she's the host on the session. She is going to be running the background and the admin for us. So if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A or the chat function that's available on this platform to be able to send us a question during the course of the webinar, and we'll try to make sure that we address it during the time that we have together. If we don't get to it, we'll be sure to get those answers from our subject matter experts and have them sent to you through your email or through all the attendees that are joining us today. Now, just for some other areas, we are set to run until 1:45, so that's just over an hour. We've got quite a few speakers, and we know that technology can be a challenge at times, but we're going to try our best to have this vehicle moving smoothly today. Restrooms are where you last saw them, and just sit back and enjoy. I'm about to introduce our first speaker for today. His name is Dave Scott. Now, Dave Scott has over 51 years experience in road transport. He has been a technical correspondent to FleetWatch for more than 23 years. So I'm going to ask Dave, can you please join me on the stage for today and to take care of our first presentation? There we go. Dave's walking up the stairs. Hi, Dave.
Hello there, Melanie. Thank you so much for that introduction.
You are more than welcome.
I appreciate the 51 years, but we hope it's not 51 times 1, and that we can add a little bit of value today.
That's true. Yeah, Dave, before you start, I've read from your bio that you have a particular passion for trailer issues. So tell me more about that.
Yes, unfortunately, trailers do not get the same attention on the road as trucks do. Consequently, they're a little bit of a stepchild. And in FleetWatch, when we've gone out and we've checked trailers, we get close to a 70% failure rate on the trailers for braking, tires, and various other problems. So it's an area which needs specific attention, definitely.
Great stuff. Thank you for that, Dave. Over to you for your presentation.
Okay, let's get the slides going. Right. Time management. Well, that's what it's all about. You just watch the taxis on the road. They come screaming past you only to stop at the traffic light, and you pull up next to them. And time management is something that affects all of us. We tend to drive a little bit faster because we think we are managing our time. And the whole challenge is not to lose precious moments on the road. The reaction time, that's what a precious moment is. How soon can you react? Well, have a look at some of the modern passenger cars. They all have the stoplight in the top back window. And why do they put it there? It's so that you can actually see that stoplight far ahead, which enables you to be able to react on time. The reaction time, look at 1 second. All extra heavy trucks are supposed to travel at 80 kilometers an hour. 1 second takes you 22 meters. 100 kilometers an hour is for a medium truck. 1 second loss takes you 28 meters. And that is a distance that can be the difference between being involved in a major road crash or avoiding one. Have a look at what braking time consists of. The hazard recognition time in the black is down there. That's hazard recognition. That's where it starts. Should we make a decision? Then there's pre-braking time, which includes reaction time, decision-making, transfer time, getting the accelerator to the brake pedal, response time, transmitting brake pedal pressure, and then pressure build-up in the system to fully effective braking. And then finally, we get braking time. So if you look at it all, stopping time is the sum of the pre-braking time and the braking time. And this is where we lose precious seconds, in the pre-braking time. Have a look at this chart, which comes from the Bosch Automotive Handbook. Superb brakes on the left-hand side on the corner. They work. Superb brakes, that is the best you can get, will give you 9.9 meters seconds squared braking effect. That is a deceleration factor. At the top is the speed of the vehicle. Trucks between 80 and 100. Extra heavy at 80 and medium trucks at 100. Passenger cars at 120. The distance traveled in pre-braking time, that's a delay of 1 second in meters. Starts at 17 for 60 kilometers an hour and ends up at 33 meters at 120. Now the stopping distance in meters, if you have superb brakes, at 120 is 95 meters. That's in a passenger car. On a extra heavy truck, it would be 50 meters. And in a medium truck, it's 71 meters. But that is from the Bosch Automotive Handbook, and I can send you a copy of that if you're interested. Here comes where we lose precious moments. Drivers are known to conduct many distracting in-cab actions. And eye movement in discerning a hazard, you lose 0.4 of a second. That's 13.2 meters of runway at 120. So only moving your eye loses you a precious moment, a distance that you need in order to be able to stop on time. Look at this windscreen. A defective or dry windscreen washer unit will play a vital role in lost reaction time seconds. We go out and we do fleet audits and we find there's no water in the windscreen washer bottle or the windscreen washer isn't working. We mark them down as a serious safety defect. But it's only windscreen water. But how many seconds do you lose as you try to peer through a dirty windscreen? Not acceptable. This is where we lose 3 seconds, and let me total it up for you. Hazard recognition time, reaction time, transfer time, response time, actual braking time, stopping. And if we put a portion of seconds to that, you can end up in lost time of 3 seconds in braking. 3 seconds may be the difference between hitting something and missing something, especially at night. Survival times for humans. Here are a few startling facts for you. No food, you might last 3 to 4 weeks. No water, you'll last 3 to 4 days. No shelter, 3 to 4 hours. No sleep at the wheel of a vehicle, you last 3 to 4 seconds. That's a precious moment. That's a precious moment. Example. I always say to Patrick, we are a little bit more visually driven nowadays than we are word driven. Carry this picture in front with you. Craig Proctor Parker can tell you more about that. So, average percentage of heavies in the traffic mix is 32%. That's on the N3, but 45% are involved in crashes. 69% occurred at night. So if you can avoid traveling at night, it's in your best interests. But can trucks afford that? No. Trucks do travel at night. They work 24 hours to keep the seat warm. And then there's distraction. DWD, driving while distracted. Just look around you in the traffic and watch everybody talking on their cell phones. That's a lost precious moment as well. And we get more and more electronic devices, texting and carrying on. More loss of precious moments. My friend JVB, he's no longer with us, of East Coast Radio, said it's not just that using a smartphone behind the wheel is dangerous, it's what you're discussing. The subject matter can be totally distracting and you lose more precious moments of reaction time. If you're arguing with your ex-wife about your alimony payments, rest assured you're not in the traffic, you're somewhere else. This article appeared in FleetWatch some years ago, but we suffer from highway hypnosis. Nothing has changed. FleetWatch, October 1995. We drive through Warden and we get to Villiers and we say, did we actually go through Warden? I can't remember it. Yeah, that's highway hypnosis. Driving without awareness. The antidote to DWA, driving without awareness, is to verbalize your surroundings on the road. I've practiced that. Spoken words bring you back to the reality and the current situation. So if you're on a long trip, verbalize what you see. You'll be surprised how it keeps you focused and in the driving seat, not somewhere else. Look at this. How many precious seconds reaction time would you lose behind these trucks? This is taken on an exercise with FleetWatch at the Tugela ferry. And the drivers actually say, oh no, it wasn't like that before we left. I wonder. Unbelievable. Yeah, so blind spots, safety checks for drivers. If you can't see me, I can't see you. And that's a thing, you can't just rely on the mirrors. You must have peripheral vision. And the pillars in the car, the A pillar, B pillar, and C pillar, may also hinder vision. In other words, they have a potential to restrict your ability to scan the road ahead. Here is a little list to check and adjust mirrors before you start the trip. Always signal when you want to move left or right. Too many people move without signaling. Turn your head, look over your shoulder before changing lanes. Only reduce a following distance to overtake a truck or a bus. A driver next to you may not be aware of your presence. It's safer to increase or decrease your speed to avoid being in his blind spot. And if you look at the whole subject, don't squeeze the time envelopes and lose precious moments on the road.
Thanks so much, Dave. That was a very informative presentation. I really loved the analogy that you used of losing precious moments. I think so often we're all just busy trying to move from A to B, trying to get work done, and you're on the phone, and you forget that the distraction that it causes in your mind does impact how you respond, on the road around you. So that's a very great analogy to use. And I think we want to wish for no one to have to experience that, where it's a moment you wish you could take back, where you've lost loved ones or caused an accident that took the lives of others.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Can I switch off my video and sound? Yeah.
Go for it. We'll chat to you, but we have Q&A that comes up for you. So next up, we have Craig Proctor Parker. He is an accident specialist and the founder of Accident Specialist as a business. He's been in this field for over 30 years. So Craig, I want to welcome you on stage. Hi, Craig. There we go. So Craig, just tell me more about what it is that you do in your line of work.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody. I'm so to say at the end of the line. When things go wrong, I am unfortunately the person that's called on. So we do the complete forensics analysis from A to B, and our reports are the ones that in essence end up in court or in the legal hands and advise and guide them as to who did not listen to Dave Scott and who was distracted and didn't adhere to the precious seconds and ended up in a bad situation.
Sure. And I'm sure in your line of work, Craig, you've seen some horrendous accidents over the years. And how has that affected you personally to just keep trying to do what you do every day and mitigate the risk of accidents?
There's two sides to the story. The one is that we run a business and we enjoy what we do. We love what we do. It's very interesting, very dynamic. We spend a lot of time out in the field as well as compiling reports. It is very, very stressful. You get to see a lot of gruesome things and a lot of unpleasant things. But the great side of it is the ability to help people and to guide people and to get them closure and to figure out actually what went on amongst the chaos.
Sure. That's quite an important task. Craig, I'm going to hand over to you to take us through your presentation. All the best.
Thanks. Okay. Welcome to everybody. So just very briefly then, going back to what Dave said, I'm just going to extend and elaborate on exactly what Dave said. So I think what we must all remember, first of all, is that what we're covering here is the issue of not only driving in terms of in your workplace. I think you need to all remember that driving in a vehicle, whether you're a driver, passenger, occupant, or even if you're a pedestrian on the road, transport in general affects all of us. So whether you're traveling to work or from work or you at work traveling around, all these issues that Dave has highlighted and that I'm going to highlight very briefly for you definitely has an effect. So one of the things that I always refer to is it's not if, it's when. Hopefully, most of the time, if something happens that you're involved in, it's relatively minor, but very often these things can be catastrophic. So in pointing out very quickly for you, the most common things that cause an accident are the human factor. And as Dave has pointed out quite correctly, it's the distractions. It's those precious seconds where you think it's fine. I'll quickly take my eye off the road because I'm moaning at my kid or my spouse, or I'm looking at the radio. It's those distractions. That's the human factor. That in all the research worldwide is shown to be the big issue. So keep that in your mind, please, everybody. Reckless driving, that is very high. It always appears locally and internationally as a major statistic. In other words, things like being impatient and overtaking over a solid line on a blind rise, that's classified as reckless driving. Speeding. We as South Africans, and not only in South Africa, worldwide, but particularly in South Africa, we're a very aggressive country and driving, and we tend to always push those boundaries. If it's a 60 zone, you find the average speed is around about 80, 90 kilometers an hour. 120 zone, we find it's 140 to 160 kilometers an hour. So please just be aware of these things. Pedestrians, we have a very big pedestrian problem. So even if you're a driver, be acutely aware of pedestrians. Weather conditions in South Africa, we have extremes from cold, wet, icy, windy, especially those of you that are commercial drivers, things like Van Riemen's Pass. Drunk driving in South Africa again, and not only South Africa, worldwide, but we have a very high prevalence of drunk driving. And here I'll just point out that there's been quite a bit of research that's been done that even after you've had a heavy night prior of drinking, your effect, and again I refer back to what Dave has quite correctly pointed out, those delays, those precious seconds are affected by the fact that you still have a hangover from the night before. Vehicle faults, and this is what I will highlight for you very quickly going in the next slides. It is quite common that we find, as Dave has pointed out, especially in the commercial trailers, but even on your private vehicles, I think you would be quite surprised. We've done a couple of tests where we've gone to shopping centers with a couple of the brand tire manufacturers, and we've done observations on people's cars, and the ratios are very high. Normally 60-70% of the cars we look at have some sort of tire issue, which falls under vehicle faults. And then poor road conditions. I'm not going to say any more to that. We do know we have a degrading infrastructure. The issue here is you cannot always blame the road conditions. You need to adjust for the road conditions. So in review of that slide, just briefly keep those things in mind. Those are the factors that are common things that cause accidents and are things you will constantly hear, but you need to consciously put those in your mind and think about what you're doing. So starting with yourself directly, are you healthy? Do you have a medical condition? Are you diabetic? Do you have eyesight problems? Be aware of things like that. Again, do you take medication? Gone are the days where we worried about whether someone has diabetes. We worry now about whether you are taking your tablets, whether you are healthy and looking after yourself. Do you wear glasses? If you're supposed to wear glasses when you drive, please wear them. Do you have physical disabilities? We have a lot of people that have limited movement in their hands, arms, perhaps even prosthetics. It's not an issue, but just be aware of that. And as Dave has already pointed out again, your mindset. When you're driving, the issue of distracted driving is a huge factor. If you think that you are not distracted because you're just quickly glancing down at the cell phone, that 0.5 seconds is your mindset. You are consciously saying to yourself, it's fine to do that. It's not fine to do that. Your mindset in terms of when you get in the vehicle, just say to yourself, I'm getting in here, I'm quickly driving to the shop and driving back. Let me concentrate for that period of time. So relax holiday mode or still tense and stressing from life pressure. So if you are going on holiday, that has to do with your mindset. Calm yourself down, understand you may be in delays, understand you may see drivers that are irritated or stressed. Don't allow yourself to fall for those things. So where are you going and what route are you taking? One of these issues of preparing yourself and your mindset is deciding where you are going. So if you're going on holiday or you're on leave and you're going somewhere for your time out, prepare yourself and get your mind in the correct mindset. Let someone know where you are going. So if something happens on the way, at least they know to search for you between A and B. Which route are you taking? Are you going main roads, back roads, gravel road? Prepare yourself. Are you likely to get a puncture? Is there somewhere you can stop and refuel and take a smoke break? And what services are en route? Fortunately, in South Africa, we have a fairly good infrastructure, but I promise you that we do regularly see, for instance, we have a bit of a problem around the country with stones and objects either been dropped or intentionally left on the road. What happens if you strike one of these? Where do you call for help? Where do you go to? What should you do? So preparing yourself on your route, even if it's to work and back. A lot of the statistics and research show us that accidents often happen close to home or close to work because you relax your mind and you become blasé about your driving, and then you end up not paying attention. So be aware of things to that effect. Emergency contact numbers. You should have them on your cell phone. 10111 is the generic SAP number. National Government Medical Emergency and Fire Service is 10177. These should be on your main screen on your cell phone. Your kids should be taught these numbers. The emergency call center, for instance, for MTN is 112. Some of the other cellular companies also have a similar number. Netcare is 082911. There are others. Put the effort just to have that. And perhaps something else you need to consider is on your cell phone, you should have the capital letters ICE, or India Charlie Echo, which stands for in case of emergency. And you should have an emergency contact person available on your cell phone. So just some interesting facts for you. If you weren't aware, you should know accidents should be reported within 48 hours. Legally, you are obliged to report it to any police station. If you don't, technically you could be fined for that. Interestingly, you cannot tow an automatic. Well, perhaps you can, but you should not. You're likely to cause mechanical damage. You have to, by law, have a warning triangle in your vehicle. That is a warning triangle that you place behind your vehicle. That is now law. In the old days, it was not a requirement. So you should have that under your seat, in your boot, in your cubby hole. If you didn't know, each tire has a small built-in indicator on the tread that shows you when you are close to the limit. It is called a tread wear indicator. If you run your fingers through the main channels of the tire, you will find a little raised bump. That little bump, as soon as you are touching that, the tire is illegal. If you didn't know this, you now do. Tire pressure affects your handling, it affects your braking, it affects your fuel consumption, and it is a massive safety risk. So these are just some interesting things that perhaps you know and you just need a reminder of. And they're key items that you should every once in a while think of, exactly like Dave has pointed out. Make sure your windscreen wiper washer fluid is full. And there's many other factors. Keep these in mind. So starting out, for those of you that are perhaps been around on this good earth for a very long time, you may not have done your driver's license to the K53 system, but the K53 system requires you on every trip to do a basic look around your vehicle. Look at your tires, walk around your vehicle, just check everything visually, particularly for the issue of if there's an animal or a child behind or under your vehicle. So starting out, you should look around your vehicle. Don't forget that. Every trip to and from. It may seem tedious, but it's a quick walk around and have a look. It could mean the difference between saving your life or someone else's life. Inspections of tires or under the vehicle. It's a very good thing, and I remind you, you should do this on regular service intervals and at a time in between that service. Take your vehicle to any center or yourself. Check under the vehicle for any damages. Check the tires. Check your wheel alignment. Rotate and balance. Simple little things that could mean the difference between you being paid out by insurance or not, or losing your life or causing serious damage or death to somebody else. There's your warning triangle. It's an interesting phenomenon, but we see a lot of vehicles on the side of the road. Please, your warning triangle is meant to be 45 meters behind your vehicle. Not 2, not 5, not 10. That's 45 paced out steps behind your vehicle. This relates to exactly what Dave is talking about, your time to react. Thank you, guys. Travel safe. Remember all these short reminders.
Great. Thanks so much, Craig. I really like what you've put in about the numbers, to have emergency contacts available on your phone, because I think often we think, it's something you can Google when you're out, but when you're involved in an accident or incident, the brain's response, flight, freeze, fight mode takes place, and you might not be thinking in the way you would normally in a normal circumstance. So that's a really good tip. Thank you for that, Craig. Just one question before you go. We have a question from one of our attendees that wanted to know if you do any investigations on when it comes to tire sort of management or claims around tire claims, that kind of thing.
Interestingly enough, we probably do these on average of about one a day, if not every second day. I think the general public would be quite shocked if we gave you the statistics of just how bad it is out there in terms of the insurance companies will readily repudiate if your tires are illegal or in poor condition and it relates to the crash. So yes, the answer is we do a vast amount of them.
Great. Thank you for that feedback, Craig, and for your presentation today. We'll see you a bit later.
Pleasure.
Great stuff. So next up, we have our in-house technical training guru, and that's Abdullah Murad. And he has 29 years experience in the transport or logistics industry. Abdullah transitioned from being a driver into the training field in 2001. So just, Abdullah, can I welcome you on stage to join us for your presentation today? There we go. So Abdullah, what makes training so rewarding for you?
Oh, Melanie. Good morning, everyone. Morning, Melanie.
Morning.
So what is training rewarding for me? Training in general, I love seeing people grow. I love seeing people discover their full potential. That is training in general. When we talk about driver training, the safety aspects of that is so vital for me. When you see somebody driving properly, handling his vehicle properly, going around a corner properly, with 2 trailers, 22 meter long, in a small street, and you know that you're doing the same things within your company. You're keeping people safe. You're keeping a taxi full of 15 people safe on the road. That's my passion. That is what makes training important for me.
Well, I can definitely hear the passion in your voice, Abdullah. So I'm going to hand over to you for your presentation today. Thank you so much.
Good day, everyone. So I will be discussing today sharing the road in harmony with trucks. For light motor vehicles, what can we do to share the road in harmony? There's a few basic steps. Basic habits that motorists could practice when sharing the road with trucks can include avoid, number one, the most important one is avoid a truck's blind spot. Dave mentioned it, Craig mentioned it just now, that the blind spot is so important. There are 4 blind spots around the truck. I will highlight it for you here. So that is the blind spots around the truck, or a combination, directly behind the vehicle, on each side, and then in front of the truck. That driver is sitting so high in that vehicle that if you drive in that space there, you won't be able to see you. If you tailgate a truck very close to a truck, you will not only obstruct your own view, but you will also obstruct the view of the driver. He won't be able to see you. Dave mentioned it. If I cannot see you, if you cannot see me in your mirror, I cannot see you. That is a golden rule of driving trucks. Sorry, I'm just loading my slides, must just load here. Passing safely. Do not pass unless you are sure there is enough space for you. Enough space for you to get in front of the truck. When passing, stay as far to the right as possible. Do not cut in front of a truck. Dave mentioned stopping distance, 50 meters stopping distance at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. If we consider the weight of the truck himself, 20 ton, the weight of the load, anything between 24 ton and 36 ton, the road conditions, the tire conditions, as mentioned by Craig, that stopping distance for a heavy motor vehicle can go up to 85 meters. So please do not cut in front of a truck if you're not 80 meters past that truck. That gives you at least 3.5 truck lengths before you can come in. A truck does not stop quickly. Keep both hands on the steering wheel as well, because there can be some turbulence, wind, that can blow you to the one side or to the other side. Then caution in bad weather. Turn your windscreen wipers on before overtaking the truck. Because of all the water he will pull up from his tires, it is so important that you do that. If you can't see clearly, especially in bad weather, please do not pass that vehicle. Another important factor that light motor vehicles usually do not check is truck takes wide turns. At certain intersections, they will need to swing either to the left or to the right to take that turn safely. Watch out for their signals. They've mentioned it. Signaling is so important. But with signaling, if you see a signal, you, as the other driver, need to anticipate what will happen. So watch for their signals and anticipate for something to happen. Do not squeeze in between the truck and the road. Road courtesy. Point 3. Remember, the road is a truck driver's work environment. And a bit of patience or courtesy won't be such a bad thing. Be patient. Remember, when trucks go up a hill, everybody is talking about the N3, but let's use local areas in the Cape Town area, for instance. Driving from here to the Dorans, from Cape Town to the Dorans, and he goes up the hill and he's driving 30 kilometers per hour. He's not driving 30 kilometers per hour because he wants to drive 30 kilometers per hour or he wants to annoy us. He's driving 30 kilometers per hour because that is what the truck can drive. He's pulling a load of 36 ton, a load of petrol, a load of fuel, a load of food that needs to get into our shops for us to use. So please be patient with trucks. Sorry. Defensive driving. Now everybody is always talking about defensive driving and what defensive driving means for them. So defensive driving have a lot of different meanings. The one that stood out for me is defensive driving means to drive in such a manner to prevent accidents, save lives, save time and money in spite of the conditions around you and the actions of other road users. When we talk about defensive driving, we also need to consider hazards. What is a hazard? So a hazard is any condition that is a possible danger to you and that could require you to change your speed, direction of travel, or both at the same time. Now we can define hazards as 3 different things. We go and moving hazards, anything that is moving on the road. Pedestrians, bicycles, cars, animals. Fixed hazards, that is stuff that is always there. When you came to work this morning, it was there. When you go back home tonight, it will still be there. Trees, stop signs, robots, road signs, gates. That is stuff that will always be there. Changing hazards, anything that changes. Weather conditions. This morning when you left home, it was misty. This afternoon when you go home, the sun is shining. put on your sunglasses, clean your windscreen, because the glare of the sun can blind you, especially when your windscreen is dirty. Road conditions. So although road conditions is always there, and the road is always there, and it's a fixed hazard, it can also be a changing hazard. This morning when you came to work, no potholes. This afternoon when you go back home, a lot of potholes. That is a changing hazard. So be careful for that. If we move on to the ABC of defensive driving, and Dave mentioned it when he discussed, or Dave and Craig mentioned it when they discussed the mindset of a driver. ABC of defensive driving is about A is your attitude towards other road users, your attitude towards the safety of other people, your attitude towards the occupants in your vehicle. That is all to do with attitude. Back off. You giving your right of way to somebody else. That means to back off. Slow down. Let somebody come in. Nothing will happen to you in peak traffic if you give your right of way to somebody else. Clear space. Clear space all around your vehicle. Not only following distance, but also when you overtake. Make sure that you overtake far enough. Bicycles on the road, that is a very important thing, especially now going into this long weekends of April. More and more people is going to ride their bicycles, groups together. Please make sure that when you overtake them as far to the right as possible, or don't overtake at all. Wait for the right time to overtake. That is the ABC of defensive driving. My slide is just loading. Another thing that I want to touch today is night driving tips. A lot of people going on long weekends, going on leave on a Wednesday afternoon, driving right through the night to get to their destination so they can rest the whole weekend where they are. It's not the right thing to do, but we all know it. We do it. We plan our trips like that. But what can you do to stay safe? Why is night driving so dangerous? Decreased visibility due to depth perception, color recognition, and peripheral vision comprised after sundown. So please, when you drive at night, remember there will be decreased visibility. Exposed road users, such as pedestrians, cyclists, bikers, are often not clearly visible to motorists. A driver may have reduced ability to judge speed and distance at night because he can't see so far ahead. During the day, we usually say eyelid time of 15 seconds. Now check for yourself. If you drive 22 meters in 1 second, how far is 15 seconds? So you won't be able to see all of that time at night. Sharing the road with fatigued drivers. I've been on the road the whole day. I'm fatigued at night. Then vehicle lighting cannot illuminate very far. And then visibility to stray animals or wild animals. The last point that I want to make to you regarding night driving is, what can you as the driver do to stay safe? Ensure that you are well rested. Clean your vehicle windows, it was mentioned before. Ensure that your head and tail lights are working. Do not blind other road users. Increase your following distance. Drive slower. Practice even more patience when overtaking. And stay away from the yellow line. Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. It just takes me back to, one of the first diagrams you had around the area around the vehicle, around a truck in particular. And I think, as a culture on the road, we're very impatient. And whenever we see a gap in front of a vehicle, we try and take it. But I think the general message is just to try and exercise more patience, especially around ultra heavy vehicles or trucks, loaded trucks, especially because we know that given some of the information that Dave has shared, some of the worst accidents happen because of us misjudging that timing. So it's a very good point that you've raised.
Thank you, Melanie. You're quite right. Patience is everything when you're on the road. Planning and patience. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We'll see you a bit later, Abdullah. Our next speaker really needs no introduction from me. Patrick O'Leary, the editor for FleetWatch magazine. He's been in road safety for over 44 years. Patrick, I'm going to ask you to join me up on stage here. When I go through your videos and some of the blogs that you've written, I can't help but call you the public prosecutor for road safety in South Africa. I think that's a more befitting title because you've really done a great job of highlighting, some of the challenges that truck drivers face out on the roads, but more in logistics in general. Patrick?
Thank you, Melanie, the public prosecutor. Yeah, I know the law. What's the speed limit in South Africa? It's $100. 100 Rand is the speed limit. Can you hear me okay there, Melanie?
Can hear you perfectly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, so tell me
great.
What's driven you to really venture out and have FleetWatch as a magazine, Patrick? What was the big reason behind that?
Was that what spurred to launch FleetWatch?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Yes. Oh, no, I saw a lot of magazines, and please, I'm not being horrible yet, but I saw a lot of magazines catering to advertisers and not telling the real stories. Give us an ad, we'll give you a story, and the real stories weren't being told. And I thought, there's a place for proper journalism in the trucking industry, and the trucking industry is the most fascinating industry. A lot of junior journalists that come into the motoring scenario, they like the BMW. It's more exciting to ride BMW at 200 kilometers an hour and run Kyalami than a truck at 80 kilometers to Cape Town. But it's the most fascinating industry, and it contributes so much to a country. It's the wheels of the economy. And within that, you have crime, you have health issues, HIV/AIDS, for example. We started a Trucking Against AIDS initiative, which is today Trucking Wellness, 21 clinics. So, and it's just, you got drivers, you got product, you've got wonderful companies like Unitrans doing great things like this webinar, trying to help people. It's the most fascinating, and what's kept me in it for 46 years is not the products and all that, it's the people. The people of the trucking industry are the salt of the earth.
Oh, thanks so much, Petra, and thank you so much for partnering with us today. I'm going to hand over to you to take us through your presentation.
What a pleasure. What an absolute pleasure. I always said, Melanie, looking at you again, everybody, don't you think she should be in Hollywood, not in a webinar? Okay, let's go. Where are we? We push that button there, and we get to the first slide. Where's the first slide? The push right button. No, I pushed the wrong button. That's the second slide. Okay, I want to sensitize you all to the reality of road safety in South Africa. And the big thing is, it'll never happen to me. We all say it'll never happen to me. Then somebody gets that call. Now, I've got that call twice in my life. One for my brother, where a guy came along and said, I need to identify a body in the mortuary. And the other for my sister late at night, both killed in accidents. That's not solely why I give a passion for road safety, trying to save lives. But that call is the most horrible call you can find. And it's most unexpected, and it's the most sudden, and it changes life, and it can happen to me. That call can happen to anyone, and the crash can be me. So it'll never happen to me is perhaps a little survival mechanism. Otherwise, we wouldn't get up in the morning and go to work. But don't live by it. It can happen. And I'll give you some of the realities of road safety in South Africa. It's an unfortunate scenario, road safety in South Africa. And there's the type of thing that happens. People going out on their holidays or on their journeys, going fishing in Gulfstream, whatever, and that is what happens. That's the type of scenario that Craig deals with. He gets up there and he tries to find out what happened. That's a type of scenario where Philip Hull, who's sitting next to me here, he goes there as a first responder. You'll hear from Philip just now. That's a mess that has to be cleared up. They are tragic scenes. It's a war scene. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about crashes and accidents. Dave has a thing about accidents. Accident has no accountability. A crash does. Someone is accountable for this mess that you've seen on the slide. Someone hasn't followed the rules that have been laid out before by the previous presenters, and Paul will also discuss that. So it can happen to you, and that's the ugly scene. They are ugly, they're horrible, they're terrible. It's like a mortar bomb has been thrown into the middle of a car and it just explodes. And I'm not going to be sort of thing here. The bodies explode with it. It's easy to pick up pieces of a vehicle. Try pick up pieces of bodies. That is different, and that's a reality. So here we have a slide that gives a sketch a picture of the culture of road safety. 10.2 million vehicles on the road in South Africa, 360,000 trucks. Estimated there'll be 900,000 motor vehicle accidents per year. Last year was a little bit down. Last Christmas was down because there was less traffic on the road due to COVID. And of course, last year there was little traffic on the road due to COVID. Level 5, the only things operating were essential workers and the majority of trucks. Average of 15,000 deaths every year. That's 43 deaths a day. 43 a day on average. It's crazy. And every one of those deaths has a name. Australia has nearly double the number of motor vehicles, yet under 10% of the number of fatalities. We're 20 times worse than Australia. So what are we doing? We're doing everything wrong. We must be doing a hell of a lot wrong. Traffic authorities. Reality, they're not respected. How do you view a traffic authority? The guy who sits under a tree, speeding camera, when you come past, he catches you speeding, and then he asks for Kentucky Fried Chicken to let you go. And that is a general perception. And I must stress that there are some brilliant cops out there, but there are some real rubbish stuff. They shouldn't be allowed to wear a uniform. I think we've all failed, because when you come to the guy behind the wheel, he owns the road. And we've seen it. We see it every day. And who really cares? We talk about road safety, but who's changing it? The slogans are not working. It's in your hands. It's in your hands. And that's what this webinar is about. You're not going on holiday behind the wheel as a rugby team. You can't pass on to somebody else, pass the steering wheel to somebody else. It's in your hands all the time. Sometimes not. Let's have a look. It affects us all. I just want to stress that. It affects us all, including you who's listening there. No one is immune. It's everybody's problem. Don't leave it to somebody else. It's in your hands. But it's also far away. It'll never happen to me. Now, every day proves the theory wrong. But let me tell you how far away it is. If I died tomorrow in a road crash, Philip is sitting next to me, might cry a little bit, will you? You will.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. And my family. But I'm not going to make a front page. Tiger Woods, millions of years away, breaks a bone in his foot. International news. International news. Okay? That's why it's so far away, because we don't highlight the people who are not dignitaries, who are not up there in the highlight of the public eye, but they die every day. This, for example, was a horror day. This one in Alberton, 2014. One truck ran into 47 cars. These people were on their way to work, taking their kids to school. This truck came barreling through them. 4 people dead, 25 injured. And that truck was totally unroadworthy. Totally unroadworthy. I inspected the truck on the scene. So it's not in your hands, this. You can see here, I'm pointing to it as if you can see. That car line upside down wasn't in his hands. He was in peak traffic there. They were all just puttering along, going about the thing. And a truck run by an irresponsible operator who didn't maintain the vehicle. That truck had no brakes on it. And I mean none. The one drum was empty. There wasn't any brake shoes in it. So sometimes it's not up to you. Sometimes it's not in your hands. But that truck was in the driver's hands and that truck was in the operator's hands. So they neglected their duty in terms of it's in your hands. What did crashes do? We talk about crashes. I love it when I go to the annual ministers' meeting. This year it wasn't there, it was remote and that. But they destroy families. They're ugly. They're horrible things. They destroy families. And they totally shatter families. It's not just a thing. We talk statistics. So many crashes, so many deaths. But what's the reality? They go back and they destroy the families. The kids are left without a father or mother. Mother and father left without kids. Aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters. We losing them. And it just takes a second or two. Remember Fields Hill? Now we have someone on this webinar now who was very involved, and that is Craig Proctor Parker. He did the accident investigation of Fields Hill. Now, I had a video here, but the program doesn't allow it, but most people will recall it, where a truck plummeted down the hill at Fields Hill, and 23 people were killed. Craig, you will recognize every one of these vehicles. Craig did the accident investigation. 23 people were killed. But I want to ask you now, can anyone on this webinar name one person among the 23 people who were killed in that horror accident? Anyone? You can type it into the Q&A, okay, if you know the name of anyone who was killed there. Because you see, it's a body count. They don't look at it as individual humans. It's a body count. Every one of those bodies has a name and people have. What about the injured? We talked about 25 injured in the Albertson crash. A general rule to establish a number of injured, you multiply the total fatalities by 20. I got this from the AA, okay? I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but I'll put it down. And so you put the number of injured in crashes at 300,000 per year. What happens to them? They are the forgotten crash victims. They never mentioned, by the way, at any government press conference. No one's ever mentioned injured. But look what happens. They then go and occupy the wheelchair parking only for the rest of their lives. You get some with a broken arm, like Tiger Woods had a broken leg. There's others that end up in wheelchairs, totally paralyzed. Others end up in places like Headway Center, totally brain damaged. Their lives are never the same. So let's not forget the injured as well. So why is a scenario? Because South Africa has become a body count. That's an accident scene in South Africa. It's a body count. We've forgotten that every individual killed has a name and is important to someone. That's why the situation is so bad, because we don't realize that everyone has a name. It's just a body count. So let me put a face and a name to a victim. Just one victim. And remember, there's 43 a day. This beautiful, beautiful lady, Auntie Arlene, I always put her up when we do training of traffic officers on unroadworthy trucks. Auntie Arlene, beautiful, lovely life ahead of her, a little son there, okay? She was killed in those, you know, the two cars I showed earlier on? She was killed in one of those cars. She was 29 years old and leaves behind a young son, who was 19 months old at the time. A lady in the Mercedes who was also there, was 45, survived the crash, living the rest of her life paralyzed from the neck down. And it wasn't their fault. It was an unroadworthy truck that smashed into them. Wasn't their fault. They were doing okay. You can change things. We can change. I believe in change. Therefore, you can change things. But you've got to have the will to it. Like we say, change things in this country, but often we hear there's no political will to change things. For example, the lack of will to change things impacts on road safety. You heard Craig say, plan your route, know your route. Now, if you're heading anywhere down the N2 today on the South Coast, near Port Shepstone, Untitled, don't go there. All trucks, cars, stay off those roads because there are huge protest actions going on, service delivery protest actions, and they already burnt 2 trucks yesterday, smashed the one's windscreen, and if you're in your car, they're going to smash you. So stay away. Know your route before you go. And in South Africa, it's not only the potholes, you've got to know service delivery protests as well. I'm not getting into politics, but those people haven't had water for 2 years. I'd be leading a bloody protest if I was there. But don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Road safety is easy. Listen to the advice given in this webinar. Follow that advice. You don't have to go out and get involved in the chaos. Texting and driving, it's stupid. You can't walk and text. So how the hell are you going to text and drive? It's stupid. I had a video here showing lots of people just walking and bashing into things while they're texting. Now, how are you going to drive when you text? You heard the precious seconds, the precious moments. You heard all this. Adhere to it. Don't text and drive. It's stupid to do that. It really is. Not wearing a seatbelt is stupid. Absolutely stupid. You're gonna, if there's a crash and there's 900,000 of them this year, you're gonna go and look like that car, go right through the windscreen. Okay, your kids at the back are gonna go right through. So I remember Philip sitting next to me here, and I don't want to bring up one, but he picked up some kids one day on Van Renen, and this little kid, this little baby, was found in the back seat of the car in a head-on, and it was. Philip thought it was the kid in the car in front, but it wasn't. That kid had flown through 2 windscreens and landed in the car that his car had a head-on with. It's stupid not to wear a seatbelt. It's crazy, dumbass. Drinking and driving, how much more must we say? Don't drink and drive, people. How much more must we say? It's stupid. To drink and drive, you're asking for trouble. And not only that, you're going to give me trouble because you're going to kill my family. Don't drink and drive. It's dumb. It's crazy. It's stupid. And then, all I want to say, let's get everyone home safe this Easter. It's your family. It's my family. It's all in your hands. You are the driver. It's all in your hands. God bless you all and stay safe, please.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Some interesting and real vivid pictures of what can go wrong when we aren't following road safety rules and just planning our trips and being more cognizant of how we handle ourselves out on the road. So thank you so much for that. We're down to our last 10 minutes, and we've got a speaker coming up, Philip Hull. Now, Philip Hull started the Road Safety Foundation about 6 years ago, and I think that was quite a bold step, Philip. So can you tell me more about what made you decide to start up the Road Safety Foundation?
Yes, thanks. Hi, Melanie, and really nice to be with everybody. Yeah, I think as Patrick mentioned earlier on, there's so much happening on our roads and not a lot really being done. And, we were looking at safety. Road safety has not been the flavor of the month, the flavor of the year. We're all aware of it, but we're not really doing too much around it. We're not being practical around it. So it was a joint decision with my colleague, Pietro Kruger, and she was with the AA at the time, and we decided to start it up and see if we could make a difference. It's been an interesting journey the last 10 or 11 years. It really is difficult to get buy-in from corporates to say, come on, because it really has to be it's almost a global effort. But anyhow, it is what it is, and we keep trying. And thank you for all your input, both individually and as a company, in doing something like this with FleetWatch, because every little bit makes a difference, and this is really important. So thank you.
Thanks, Philip. We look forward to partnering more. I'm going to hand over to you for your presentation.
Right. Well, thanks very much. Let's go across there. Right. Sorry, I'm sharing, as you can probably see here, sharing an earpiece with young Patrick, who's on the side. We've spent 38 years down at Van Renen's, all the public holidays, the long weekends. I take a team of paramedics and doctors, volunteers, highly qualified in both medical and rescue. And what we're seeing here is one of the, I guess, the lucky ones. This young lady, once again, no fault of her own. Somebody spun out in front of her. She reacted and ended up spinning the car, which you see in the background, and overturning. The family survived. There were 3 of them in there. The young girl there, 11 years old, was so traumatized she could not stop crying and sobbing, understandably. So these little teddy bears that you see, they're part of our standard equipment, and it just helps to calm everybody down. It really is, we see this way too often, we really do, and it's tragic. We always equate any trip, whether you're going a long trip or whether you are going to work, going to the shops. You are the pilot if you are driving that car, and what happens inside that car is your responsibility entirely. Making sure that the car is prepared, number one. We'll come back to that just now, and I know that some of the previous presenters have really covered a lot of that. But making sure that everybody is buckled up and there is nothing there that's going to distract you. we relate the pilot basically being in control, because whatever happens in the car outside of that should be handled by somebody else. So you've got to focus on what you're doing. You've got to focus on what's going on around you. You've got to focus on what your car is doing, checking obviously your controls, water temperatures, all those things that you've got to keep looking at, but keeping in that safe spot when you're traveling on the road. And that's quite difficult, and it takes a lot of practice. That safe spot, that safe area that you can get into, it's probably taken me 7 or 8 years, literally, just to feel moderately comfortable in looking for it. And I'm now starting to do it a little easier. Dual lane highways, N3 down to Durban, any other road. I say to my team and I say to all my colleagues, overtake in the right lane, but move back into the left lane. It really is important to give yourself as much time as you can, literally, to, if something happens on the road in front of you, you are further away from oncoming traffic. Anyhow, let's go back to the driver preparation. Good night's sleep prior to traveling, healthy snacks for the journey, pack water. I cannot tell you how many people we've had on the road stuck at an accident scene for hours and hours and hours. Nothing to drink, nothing to eat. And we end up having to, go and see if we can help them out, which is always a pleasure if we can. But always make sure that you're self-contained. Leaving on a holiday, let's talk holiday specifically. Your holiday starts the moment you get in the car. So look at the journey as part of that holiday, and so many people don't do that. We see a real rapid race get down to where they're going. So, get out there and enjoy the ride. Just on preparation of the car, the one thing that was put up earlier on, checking for tires, your water, your, all the rest of it, all of that must be done when your car is cold. In other words, before you leave. We see so many people arriving at garages along the way. They ask the driver to check oil and water. The oil hasn't drained into the sump yet, so they're getting misreadings. The water, you end up getting airlocks. The tires are hot on the trip, so they are showing an overinflated reading. So everything, tires and your spare wheel, must be done when it's cold. And that's vitally important. We have so many accidents and issues just around that as well. Obviously, the texting, cell phones, distractions in a car. Pat very eloquently spoke about the texting as well, but just changing a radio station in a car, average of 3.5 seconds, just to look down and press button 2 instead of button 1. That's before you start tuning. 3.5 seconds with your eyes off the road, your refocus times, you've gone a long, long way, and a lot can happen. So these are the issues that one really needs to look at, and just keep practicing, because that really is what it's all about. Right, what's on the next slide? Regular stops are essential. We recommend every 2 hours, if possible, but at safe spots. It's not really just to stop on the side of the road anymore. So find a safe spot where you can relax, hopefully bathroom, buying anything that you might need. All-round observation. We see people, when we come up behind people, you can see the rearview mirror, and it's angled down at their waist or their feet. They're not looking. The rearview mirror has absolutely no use whatsoever. People are not using mirrors. So it's both side mirrors and rearview mirror, and it's a constant rotation to know what's going on around you. You need to know that if you need to do an emergency move into another lane, is there somebody in that lane or not? So once again, practice makes perfect on that. Animals, pedestrians, I think we've touched on, they're all around. And they can pop out of the bush before you know it, so you've got to be ultra aware on that side. Right, so going for the next slide. Okay, double lane highway we've just touched. You want to be as far away from oncoming traffic as you can. The other thing is keep an eye on what's on the side of the road. If you need to go off the road because of something happening in front of you, know that there's not a 30-foot drop on that side, hopefully, and things like that. Those are always options to know what's on the side. One of the downsides of driving at night, I think it was Craig that put that up as well, is you can't see what's on the side. So if you need to take any evasive sort of maneuver, you really can't see where you're going. You don't know what's on the side. Your lights are illuminating in front of you. So once again, one of the disadvantages of driving at night. Sorry, just waiting for that next slide to come up. The safe following distance, I think also being touched. One of the things we see so often, particularly on Ferenins, where we have over probably 120 days a year with mist and wet weather, is people tailgating and people not allowing for wet roads. This accident that we had last weekend at Ferenins, the head-on with the two trucks, one of the trucks came round a corner unladen at the back, and literally being slight just lost control in wet weather. So we have to keep our speeds to conditions, and that's something we have to learn. I would say that probably estimated 30–40% of the accidents that we have at Ferenins are caused by wet weather and or poor visibility. And that's easy enough to resolve if we're just aware. It's all about defensive driving at the end of the day. I mean, everybody that's spoken, you know, Craig, Dave, Abdullah, Patrick, it is really just being sensible. There's nothing really unusual about road safety. It's just common sense, quite honestly. This slide, I mean, the rain and misty conditions, you know, the car driving, there's another car in front of that one as well. You can't really see anything. The one on the right, probably enough distance, but once again, you'd have to be in that situation to just see it. And obviously, the car in that last photograph with the yellow star, when you are in the mist, drive with your lights on dip and not on bright. That vehicle has its lights on bright, and of course, that flares. It's not only poor for oncoming drivers, but it actually reduces your own visibility from within your car. Right, regular breaks we've spoken about, obviously alcohol. I can tell you that we have, if I could tell you some of the stories about Ferenins, we have people arriving for breakfast in the morning, taking out a bottle of brandy and having it with their egg and bacon. They order a Coke and literally they get back in the car with their families afterwards. Terrifying reality that's out there and more common, I think, than most of us would like to believe. Accident scenes, real problem for us. We've had so many near misses. Often when there's an accident, if it's at Ferenins, we're based there, so we are first on scene. So now we have an issue that we have injured people to look after, but we also have traffic coming at us from both sides. We've got to do scene safety. So it's the old quandary of, do we start putting out cones to protect the scene before we start treating, even though we might have a car, let's say, on fire or something. So when you see any type of incident, whether it's orange lights, blue lights, anything that looks strange, slow down. So many people come through at such speed, it's quite frightening. Don't stop out of curiosity. That is another big issue. People tend to stop. And then, of course, we get the rear ends and people trying to miss them and coming into us. Officials on scene, often there's not enough of them before, you know, if it's an early accident. So once again, common sense prevails. Anything unusual, put your emergency flashes on to warn people behind you that you might be slowing down and that there's something ahead, and then go through at a safe speed. Secondary accidents are always an issue, and I can't tell you how many we've had of those over the years, and it's just by grace that none of my team has certainly been involved in them. The marker boards, any instant when you're on a main route, those little blue marker boards every 200 meters gives all the information. It gives you the route that you're on. It gives you your exact location to within 200 meters. So that's vital information to know what those signs are for and to be able to communicate that to any emergency services. So please be aware of those all the time. They are every 200 meters. They're on both sides of the road. The only difference being is that one of them will say north and one of them will say south or east and west, depending which way the road goes. If you can assess or assist with any injuries, if something has just happened, please do so, but just be conscious of moving people unless you have to move them is not a good idea. What I would say, though, is you often find people, if they're unconscious, where they are sitting with their chin down on their chest like this. What you can do is very gradually put a thumb and just open up the airway, not too far, but just into a normal position. Make sure that they are breathing. But try not to move outside of that, if at all possible, until people arrive. SABC, safety number one for yourself and those injured. Airway, breathing, circulation are the priorities that we react to as medical teams. So check airway, check breathing. and circulation. Breathing and circulation are your CPR components. What else have we got there? Don't give anybody anything to drink. If somebody really is thirsty and you do get that intense thirst after a shock, a sip of water which they can just swill in their mouth is literally all you should give. If that person needs to go in for any operations, anything that you've given them by mouth will be a severe prejudice for them. And then just talk to them and reassure them. I think that's all one can really do, on the roads if you're not medically trained. The emergency numbers, if you're traveling on the N3, if you're traveling on the Bequena route, the track route, wherever it may be, make sure you've got those numbers on your phone. They're easily available. Your 112, 147 with MT and Vodacom, and of course 082 135 for Vodacom. It's there. And Netcare 082 911. There's a host of numbers that one can phone, all of which will help in any reaction anywhere in the country. Sorry, Pat, you're saying?
112 for Vodacom.
112 for Vodacom as well. 112 is the common number. Basically, you'll get through to people that will give you a hand there. So I think enjoy the holiday. A happy Easter to everybody. We're not looking forward to being on the roads, I can assure you, down at Van Reenen's, because I think after the lockdown, it's going to be pretty frantic. And I think people are going to just want to get down on holiday. So I wish everybody a safe Easter. And please, don't give us any work.
Thanks so much for your time, Philip. There was definitely quite a bit of information shared. And I think we've had a comment from Alicia that said that people would like to partner with you in giving those and donating maybe some of those teddy bears, because I can imagine the trauma that children especially go through during accidents and for all people. I mean, when your life flashes by, it's really something that alters who you are, I think.
Oh, that's very kind. Thanks, Melanie, and thank you for that offer as well. Just out of interest, we probably on average go through 50, 60 of those teddy bears a year. Obviously, it varies year to year, but they are so welcomed, and it's like a rescue blanket for a lot of these kids. So it's a wonderful thing to watch how it calms them down. But often there's a tragedy at the other end of it, that they've lost a parent, or the parent is critical and things like that. So, but thank you. That's very kind.
Great stuff. We've come to the end of this road safety webinar. Sorry for going a bit over time. As you can see, we've got a whole host of passionate people that really just want to change the way we, approach road safety. I think it needs to be a new culture, that we are more vigilant, that we do more planning when we're heading on the roads. And also just, if anything, the pandemic has brought to light the seriousness of alcohol abuse. A lot of times that is a big reason for why we see disastrous accidents on the roads. So to everyone that joined us today, thank you so much for your time and for making yourself available. We hope that through the recording, you can share it with your friends and family that you feel that may benefit from the session. And I think from everyone, FleetWatch and us at Unitrans, we just want to wish you the very best. We hope that none of you are ever in the situation where, you're in an accident or you lose someone you love due to accidents. And let's work together as we unite to change what road safety looks like in South Africa. So thank you so much, and please reach out. We've got Kylie's email that's been sent out to you. So that any other questions or any additional information that you'd like, please be sure to reach out to her so that we can contact you. Thank you once again, and be safe out on the roads. Thank you.